Welcome everybody to our Bylaws Subcommittee meeting. It's October 18th at 9 o'clock. So welcome. I'm Nancy Vandell, Chair. I have no conflicts. Could everybody please introduce themselves and state conflicts?
Wyatt Angelo, no conflicts.
Susan Schomburg, no conflicts.
Tom Sipe, no conflicts.
Thank you and welcome, Mark. I see you've joined us.
Good morning. Hi. I'll turn things on here.
Okay. Hi. Welcome. I'm not going to actually just go to the agenda. It's in the meeting folder. The minutes were added this morning. I think the committee members had gotten a draft and there are a few updates, and so the new version's in the meeting folder. Does anyone need me to put the link to the meeting folder in the chat?
No.
Okay, I think they've agreed to just put the meeting folder instead of just the agenda in there. But Mark, do you need the meeting folder link?
No.
Okay. So it has, I'm guessing people haven't had a chance to read the minutes. Do you want me to defer it till next meeting, or would you like to? They're pretty short. Do you want to look at them as we go along, and then we'll do an approval later in the meeting?
Yeah, I have not had a chance to look at it, Nancy. My dog ate
Okay.
the homework, so
Okay. Well, I have one of those dogs too. So
I've been moving,
thing.
so I have not had a chance to look at anything.
Wow. Okay. Moving to Nesquin or within Nesquin?
Yeah, about 300 yards away from the old place.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that's about as good as an excuse as you can get. It's better than mine. Anyway, if you guys could go ahead and look at the minutes, and then they're short. We can see if we're ready to approve them later in the meeting. Susan, could you please remind me to do that? Thank you. And if not, I can wait till the next meeting. My report, the main thing I have is, we have an executive board meeting coming up this coming week. So I'd like to hear if you have any topics you'd like me to bring up. But there were two meetings we had since the last, I think since the last one, the STR meeting that Sarah presented was a special meeting, and we're keeping out of that, but it was more of an information meeting. And basically the decision that came out of that meeting was to defer any update on STR caps and short-term rental caps and that kind of thing until we're not sure the date. We're thinking maybe next fall. Do you know, Mark, how long that deferral was going to last?
I kind of heard a couple of different sort of timelines. One was about a year away, and the other one was, I thought Sarah said at some point in 2026. So
okay.
I'm not, I don't know. I don't really know. I know they have a lot on their plate, and they're probably not anyway. So that a lot of stuff that's going to take a lot of time for a year. So we'll see.
Yeah, good. Yeah. And I think she was happy with the recommendation from us and was going to pass that on to the commissioners that we would like to hold off on anything. And the reason behind that was there's just so much other things going on that could affect short-term rentals, and why not give it some time to let what the new recommendations play out and see what we want to do. So both of which seem to make sense to the vast majority, including kind of both sides of that situation.
Well, not all.
And then the
not all of the rules had been applied to everybody yet, so really
right.
couldn't tell. So that was
kind of
reason.
premature.
Yeah,
exactly. It was premature. So this way it'll be able to play out.
Okay.
So and then last gosh, was it just this week? We had the meeting with that Sarah presented on the FEMA requirements for the county, and that was quite a meeting. And I know we talked about it a little bit last time, but there are 3 options that FEMA has given the county, and really most counties in the state of Oregon. I think she said all but 6 or 7 counties in the state of Oregon, to make big changes on that will affect permitting and all sorts of different things. And it's related to a lawsuit, apparently, to be able to protect endangered animals, particularly orcas and coho salmon. And then she mentioned at the end quite a few others. But the impact of this, apparently the county has to select what they want to do by December 1, which of 3 terrible, terrible options. And so they're busy working on getting data for that. So, and I'm not going to go through the options here, but to me, the important thing is that there may be an opportunity for the NCAC to weigh in on this. And I'm glad you're here, Mark, to talk about this, because I was thinking we could bring it up in the board meeting also, on how we go about it. And this is something that's on our list for policies and procedures, is how do we come up with recommendations? You know, it doesn't happen very often that the county wants to hear our opinion, but it sounded like it could be helpful to the county to have something from us. And right now it's premature because they're still getting data and they're still trying to fight back on this deadline. But I'm thinking it may be something where we might, you know, see what the board wants to do, but call a special meeting just to come up with some wording to send. And Sarah was going to send Mark some suggested wording that might be used for this kind of a thing. So anyway, I just wanted to make you aware. I think Wyatt, I don't think you were there. I think the others attended, but it has enormous impact with very, very little timeline. It just seems just very strange. So
My
it could
impression was,
affect.
yeah, I was
It
just
could
saying,
have-
go ahead.
Go
Sorry.
ahead.
Mhm.
No, go ahead.
My impression was that it was going to be bad, and it really wasn't that good.
Right. That's very good, Tom.
Well, and I was
There's
struck also by how it will impact people that don't even know this is going on. I mean, if you've got to get permission to take down trees in your yard or to even build a fence. I mean, I was wondering how we can get the word out now so people can cut their trees down, they can build their fences, get their permits before this all goes into play, because they're going to be really impossible to do these things going forward, it sounded like.
right, unless they do succeed in backing off. I mean, it just seems, hopefully the governor can actually do something with getting them to back off a little bit and give some more time. But regardless, I mean, even to be able to repair a roof, it sounds like could be
Yeah.
problematic. So, and very
I-
expensive to hire specialists. So, Mark.
Oh, I hate to be sort of I just think that, yeah, I mean, when Susan says people probably should know about this, she's right about that. However, I don't want to be cynical about this, but if somebody has their fence go down or their roof, they're just going to get it fixed.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just what's going to happen. And
Mhm.
if you need a new water heater, you're just going to have one installed. And
Mhm.
if it doesn't require a permit from the county to do that, then it's pretty easy to do. And so, you know, but definitely the people who live in the flooded, when we looked at that map,
Mm.
a lot of South Beach and a lot of the village are in that map. And if you're not in that map, then you're fine.
Yeah, I'm not in it by one house.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
Really, one
No,
house.
going both sides, you know, on the golf course side and the ocean side, and there's this strip that runs through the middle. But, well, in this iteration of the flood map, I'm not in it.
Yeah,
Sarah
right.
did
Well, that's
say
just it.
that they would
Right.
be.
That's the new
Revisiting
flood
the
map. I
map.
think they're gonna updo it. I think they're gonna update it again.
Mhm.
And it does have, for folks who are in it, really big implications after this kicks in, because you can't do any substantial improvement that would, you know, require a permit. It's just going to be very expensive to do that if it's even approved. So,
Well, and I'm worried about the golf course, you know, because last winter
Right.
it flooded and they had
Right.
to rip out the carpet and have dumpsters and all that. Shoot, if that happened again if they
Right.
implement this.
right.
hey,
I know.
Tom, are we even able to develop a community development plan with all these question marks in the air?
That's a good question. We're discussing that in the committee. It's possible that we may take a vacation.
Yeah,
Yeah. That
That's
makes
not been
sense.
decided, but that's on the table.
Yeah.
Mhm. So anyway, what it raised for me was, it would be helpful, I'm sure, to the board to have some policies and procedures around how we respond. And I don't think we need it to respond to this, but I think anything we can do to try to provide the county some support in delaying might be helpful. But
Mhm.
I was going to actually reach out to you separately, Mark, and see if we could have some kind of a plan for that. Not that we would make that much of a difference, but it sounds like it might be helpful.
Yeah, yeah, it might be. I think though it's a big machine that's working here, and FEMA and billions of dollars and farmers in the community and all their lands that flood, and I mean, but it is a huge thing. We might touch on it Wednesday. I guess we're meeting on Wednesday, but we'll probably do more of it. Maybe we might mention it. I think but the November meeting is when we might have more information about it.
Right,
Or
right.
even the December or January meeting, but yeah.
Okay. Well, I think they have to have a response by December 1st, right? So we'd have to do something before then. Seems like,
Yeah. I mean, we could, we
if
could
we're going to
put
do
something
anything.
together. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, and so of course that's taking all of Sarah's time, I'm sure, or most of
Yeah.
it. Sounds like she's very active statewide on it.
Yeah.
So we are meeting as a board on Wednesday, and I was just going to give a very brief update again. But does anyone have anything else that they would like to bring to the board, or that they would like me to bring to the board? Okay. And that's really all I have, other than I have been remiss, and the last 2 weeks I was more optimistic than I thought I was going to be with a trip and a visit from family. But the next 2 weeks, this is my highest priority. So I will be working on getting my stuff into Tom. So moving on to the policies and procedures section, Tom sent out, you've been working hard. A very impressive update on the policies and procedures document, and thank you, Susan and Wyatt and Michael, for getting your updates to Tom as well, that he could include in the document. But it's come a long way. So Tom, I'm gonna allow you to share, but could
All
you
right.
share your document, and we'll go into that as we go through the document. I'd like to talk about Tom's really done a nice separation of his interpretation of policies versus procedures, and which he can talk about. And then I think it may be premature to do any real organized structural writing of filling these kinds of things in. But as Tom goes through the document, think about it. If they're, hi, looks like you have the agenda up, Tom.
Oh, agenda. I thought you wanted the document. All
I
right.
do.
I can do that.
Thank you.
All right. I thought I was
So
getting ahead of you. Okay.
So think about if you would like to, if anything grabs your fancy that you'd like to take for before the next meeting to do a draft on, let's do it that way for now. We had talked about in December proposing more policies and procedures around nominations and elections, which would be helpful if there's anybody who would like to take that on. And really, it kind of falls to you, Susan, since you're part of the outreach committee, to take that on. But if anyone else would like, as we go through this. So, Tom, if you could just go to the one page, that would be helpful.
What do you want the agenda, or do you want the
I just want
document?
your document.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought you wanted. So that would be
Right now, it's
there.
showing my email too.
No, it should not be. You should be seeing the document. Okay, let's stop that share and try it again.
Maybe you could go to your live document or something. And That way, if there's anything that comes up you want to record, you could go to version 9. Yeah,
Okay, okay, all right, and we do a save as. Come on, there we go. And see, I've taken all of the little helpers that I have for paragraph
Thank
ends
you.
and such.
thank you, Tom.
I'm often amazed at how difficult people find that to be, because I filter it out so well. Okay, anyway, the major thing that I've contributed in terms of actual content is the policies and procedure definition and the term usage. And those, I think, both deserve a little bit of consideration. As we discussed it last time, the policies are basically directive statements. They say, this is what you should do in a particular case. Procedures are, this is, given that you need to do this, this is how things are done. To me, the policies are a lot stricter than and briefer, probably more brief than the procedures. Procedures basically just tell people how to do their job, and the policies are the goals. So, any comments on?
No, I like it, Tom. I did a little bit of research on my own, and believe it or not, from the University of Nebraska, of all places, that really kind of mirrored this, and I thought it was really well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like it too. It helps a lot. And
Yeah.
then in terms of organization, you've got it in the 2 separate sections now. And we talked about possibly at some point, we might want to put them together by policy and then have procedures under each policy. But that's something we can talk about later as it'll filter out on its own what the best
Okay.
approach is. No, it's very good.
Okay, the other
And I
thing,
really like that you did the terms too,
Mhm.
because I think that is something we all are familiar with, but not the casual reader.
yeah, the casual readers, can means the same thing as shall. And that's not true, not in a literal sense. So this is actually devolved from the IEEE language style guide, which is slightly different than the British. This is American rather than British.
Hey,
Shall,
Tom, are these terms, they are also used in the actual bylaws that we passed.
mhm.
Do these usages change any of what we did earlier in the bylaws? In other words, do they apply equally to the bylaws as well as to the policies and procedures?
They do. I was very, very, I had this in mind when I did the editing on the bylaws. So yeah, I think it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually went back and changed a whole bunch of wills to shells and cans to shoulds and mays and yeah.
And
Actually, this is actually even a little more between a may and a should. Yeah. It's nice.
Yeah.
okay.
And the difference
Okay.
between the must and the shall is interesting too. I think I might put shall and then must next to each other. 'Cause they're very
Must is different. Must is a natural consequence of.
exactly, but I mean it's to the casual reader. I think shall and must.
Oh, you want
are,
them just rearranged?
Yeah, that's just
Oh,
a
okay.
suggestion because they're kind of similar sounding
Mhm.
to the average person.
Mhm.
Okay.
I learned from you the difference between shall and must when we were doing the bylaws. So
I need to track changes. Okay. I don't think that one matters so much. It's just
Yeah.
a reorder. Okay, any other comments?
No, we just don't use can. I mean, it's just not.
Can is very similar to must. Can is capable of, and that just doesn't apply.
Yeah, it seems like that's similar to may to me.
You want,
No, we don't need to say anything about can. I just,
okay, no,
that's
it
how I
is,
think of it.
it is similar, but may is permissive and can is a description of action, of potential action.
Huh, you
Once
are
again,
amazing.
that's American. British is different, and I'm not going to confuse you with
No,
British.
thank you, no. Thank you, no.
Separated by a common language again.
Yes, well, I worked for British companies for 20 years. So I had to write this stuff down so I could keep it straight.
All right. Any other questions on this? This is a great introduction, Tom.
Okay. Okay, so I added, because we're getting kind of rather
Yeah.
deep into detail here. Just a table of contents. I don't think that's particularly controversial. But one thing about having the specialized tags on the sections, it does allow somebody to go through and say, okay, these are all the policies. If I'm interested in policy, this is what I got. If I'm interested in
Mhm.
how to do something, you go to procedure. So, and I did add, let's unfortunately bled over to the next page, another section called reference,
Oh,
which
great.
has got the map in it. Because it really, the NESCO map or the NCAC map is neither a policy or a procedure. It's just information. So reference.
Excellent. And I wonder if we could put in, if not the maps, links to like the FEMA map or some of the things that are going to become interesting to people in that section, like having that reference section.
That's
Maybe we need to call it policies, procedures, and reference or something.
yeah. It actually is in the community, or the FEMA is not yet. It will be, but that's actually in the community plan already. I can bring up the community plan if you like. No, I mean, our documents are only 12 pages long. Community plan started out as 60 pages.
Yeah, maybe it's not needed in both then.
It seems like
Yeah.
it would be a good thing on the NCAC website, though. Once more people find out about FEMA, it would be a quick, easy reference to just go on the website and see if you're in it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's see, we have a website, either committee or person, I don't know.
It's
But that's
scary.
something that you guys in the executive committee should decide to request.
Okay.
Guess that was a mark then, wasn't it?
I'm
Okay.
sorry. Can you repeat that, Tom?
Yeah, Susan said that it might be interesting for people to have FEMA information on the website.
Oh, yeah.
Or a link to know how to go about finding out if you're in the FEMA flood zone.
Yeah.
Zone.
Just a
Yeah, for
FEMA webpage, just a page that points to the map, and maybe we could even have a copy of the letter that was sent to the county there. That would be, I would like
That
to
would
see
be
that.
really helpful. Yeah, rather than having to go to the county for those documents. And has Sarah sent you the document from the other night? Her presentation, Mark? Because
No, I
that
got the
would be
impression
helpful too.
she was going to send it to the admin at NESCO, but I know
Okay.
no, I haven't received anything from her since the meeting. But yes, I mean, the FEMA flood, the directions to the FEMA flood maps, or the maps on FEMA, that would be worth having for sure. And Yeah, and sort of, we'll meet with Sarah in early November.
Mhm.
The first Tuesday in November as the chairs of the CACs. And I'm sure this will be a topic, but one of the things that would be kind of nice is to maybe all communities is if you could just have some sort of almost like a cheat sheet of what these FEMA options would mean to a landowner, somebody who owns property in a floodplain. What does it mean? Because it's, if you were at the meeting on Wednesday, it is pretty complicated. And she got into a lot of things as we were talking just a minute ago about, maybe doing things like updating a roof or a fence. I heard her say that you could do maintenance things. And I would say that those are maintenance things. And so, but then, she sometimes goes back and forth with, oh, you can't do this because, it would be nice if we could, and it's early in the game, but I think will be some of the conversation when the CAC chairs meet in early November. But so yes, to answer your question, Susan and Tom, I think we should have those. I'll speak with Gary and make sure we have those things and put at least the access to the map or a direction to how to get to the map easily. And but at least that part of it. I don't know how much other stuff we want to put on the website unless it's really user friendly about the
Well,
FEMA.
yeah, pointers too, at least. I think
Yeah.
It also makes me think about people's insurance policies. And I
Right.
mean, I've never really looked at my I mean, I'm not in a flood zone, but do I have flood insurance? People might want to revisit their insurance policies.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I have flood insurance and I can tell you that it's gone up every year. And in fact, about 3 years ago, they said, here's where it's going to end in, I don't know. I think they said 6 or 7 years, and I want to say it was around 10 times what it was
Wow.
in terms of cost. And so flood insurance is going up
Mhm.
and will continue to go up. So,
yeah, and Florida
And
is
even
not
if you're not
helping.
in a floodplain, like
yeah,
our property's not in a floodplain, but it sounds like she was saying infrastructure that is in a floodplain that goes through your property or affects your property could
Right.
affect this as well. So not quite as directly as people who are in the floodplain, of course, but sounds
Yeah.
like everybody, and not just people in Nesco and, all these counties, but she said Nesco or Tillamook County is affected. It sounds like more extremely than just about any of the other counties. If I read her correctly, I may have misinterpreted that, but
No, I think part of that, she did say that, but also implied that because we've been more aware, we know more as a
Oh,
county,
yeah.
that other counties have not been as proactive in terms of trying to figure these things out. So they may be in worse trouble than they think they are,
Okay.
which is
yeah.
always cheerful. Yes.
Yes. Well, and just not having the time. I mean, November, it sounds like she'll have more information, like you were saying, Mark, and at the same time, less time to process and get it through. And yet if she picks option 3 to kind of just wait and see, then we're not protected by FEMA, it sounds like. So yeah, anyway, it's a dilemma.
Yeah, yeah. I assume that the moratorium can be temporary because that's a thing that she was saying that it's probably the default.
Right. And that was a question that I forgot to ask, but is it temporary? Once they figure it out, can they then go back into it? Or is it one time only? Do you have till December 1st and that's it? And then I guess you have to actually implement everything by what, July 1st or something, July
Yeah,
31st?
which is completely reasonable.
Right. Okay, moving on.
Moving on. Okay, so
So did anyone have any comments on the table of contents? I'm assuming this will be a live thing. We can change the table of contents as things arise, but it's kind of what you have so far, right, Tom?
Yeah,
Yeah.
is
And kind of
Robert's
going through
Rules of
the,
Order also a reference, Tom?
we actually, yeah, actually, that's going to be in there's
In the
It's
map
down.
area, perhaps?
It's the last one.
Down in procedures at the last one, but it also is a reference, I would think.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
It's something that, you know, in the bylaws, we say Robert's Rules of Order, latest edition, or there's some wording that Robert's Rules likes us to use. And I think because they change their editions all the time, we'd said we wanted to have in the policies and procedures. I don't know which one it is. So you're probably right, Wyatt, that right now it's currently 12th edition. And we would have that in there, but as you know, it'll be more easily changed when they
Yeah,
come out
but-
with a 13th edition.
Yeah, the question is it a policy, procedure, or reference?
Seems
Right.
like it would be reference.
We can do that. Just a minute, why don't I do that right now? Everybody agree that's a reference?
Mm.
And which will change this into a what is this? That's a heading 1, so we'll change this to a heading 1. And we'll move this to there. And we're done. Okay.
Mhm.
Very good. Excellent.
Impressive.
So I'm wondering if we change the whole title of the document to policies, procedures, and references.
We can do that. I don't think that that'll require change to the bylaws.
No. Well, let's the PP&R.
Yeah, that sounds terrible. That sounds horrible. Now, do we want to do that or not? I can do that.
Starts to sound like a railroad.
Yeah, actually, it does. Yeah. Actually, it doesn't fit on the top of the page.
Well, and to Nancy's point, would you then have to go into the bylaws and change everything to PP&R from
Yeah.
PNP?
Yeah,
So I'm thinking we'll probably have one bylaws change, and that would be a editorial. We can actually do that editorially, I think. You know, we're
Yes.
given permission to do that without getting approval, and I would consider that an editorial change.
Mhm.
so do you want to change it or not?
Well, the question would be, do we want a separate document for references? And I guess I would say, off the top of my head, it's good to have it in here.
I
So-
agree.
I agree.
Me too.
Wow, that was easy.
So you want it? Okay, you can do that.
I mean, we can think about it if you want, but I really like how you set up a reference thing, because it doesn't, there are
Mhm.
these things that don't really fall into policies or procedures.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Unless the map is considered a policy.
Yeah, I thought originally, and it did.
You could just put the
References.
space after UNESCO considers an advisory committee and have policies, procedures, and references
Ah, yes.
after on the next line.
Mhm.
Okay, fair enough. Good, I like that.
We could even make in the first line smaller, but now we're really getting into
I'll fix that later.
nitpicky. Yeah.
Yeah, I could just fix it now. What the heck?
And then an E between the R and the N.
In references.
Yeah, but since it's all caps, it doesn't do spell check for me.
Mm.
Well, that's interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
it
put it in the
assumes
wrong
that it-
spot.
Pardon?
The E goes before the N.
Yeah, okay. See, I'm mildly dyslexic and letter order is really unimportant to me.
So Mark, you're getting into the, what's the term? It's not where the dough is made,
Minutia.
but the, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And now let's get rid of now that we've done that ugliness to the press, we'll get rid of it.
And Mark, please feel free to speak up anytime you have an opinion. I mean, you're
Okay.
sort of a,
Okay.
There we go.
I consider
if
you
you
an
knew-
ex officio member of the committee, which
Okay.
we never put in the bylaws, but really I think the chair should be an ex officio member of every committee,
Yeah.
which doesn't mean you have to attend.
Yeah.
It's-
Okay, so do we want to go through the ones we have and make assignments, or what, how do we want to proceed?
Yes, so I think sure, why don't we just go ahead and put some names up temporarily at least, and can
How many should we be signing up for?
well, why don't we make it easy to begin with? Why don't you think of 3?
Okay,
And of course, some are going to be long, some are going to be short, but we'll continue having assignments. But as we go through, actually to start with, why don't you just put up if you're interested, and then I'll go through the video and make a chart of all the ones that people have signed up for and see if we can make them more uniform in terms of assignments and time, and come up with something for the next. I'll send out a note ahead of time that we can talk about them at the next meeting. But if there's some that you think you could do pretty quickly, maybe draft them even beforehand. So I'll try to go through this weekend, and I'll commit to sending something out by Monday that has the information that we talk about today. And then if you want to go ahead and do your parts by the next meeting, that would be great. Otherwise, I think we've got time. I'm not feeling the same urgency that we had with the bylaws.
Well, I suspect
sound
policy
fair?
number 1 is probably due to me, so I'd be happy to sign up for that.
Okay, and I do like the idea too of having 2 people on a
Yeah,
team so they can talk about it. So, Tom, maybe you want to make this maybe what I want to do is take my version here, and I will just make notes on my version of it, which I have up here.
Well, I can make.
I've downloaded,
We
and that
can,
way it's not in your official version. I'm just going to put in a column
oh, okay.
with who would be taking on what for now, and that's probably easier than doing it by hand. Okay, so why you want to do procedure? We're up in policies. Policy 1, right?
yep.
Would anyone like to join Wyatt on that?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to be very busy or completely idle.
So what I was thinking with you, Tom, and I'm sorry, I meant to say that at the beginning, is let's not assign you to anything in particular, because you'll probably be massaging everything we send you. So why don't we make it the 4 of us, Michael and
Okay,
Wyatt, Susan and me. And if there's anything you'd be particularly interested in, Tom, go ahead and say that. But otherwise, why don't we keep you as the overall editor? Does that sound good?
that sounds wise.
Okay. Particularly with, we don't know what you're doing on the community
Yeah.
plan at this point, so, yeah. Okay, anyone else interested in member access to records? It's already pretty well written, actually.
It needs a little tweaking, I think.
Uh-huh. So who would want to be on there with Wyatt?
I'll join.
Okay.
Thanks, Susan. I was kind of feeling like I was an outcast there.
Okay. The maintenance of NCAC website information, that's another one that came from you, Wyatt, right? Or no? I think that was some of our other. So,
This actually has some research required
yeah, it
Um,
does.
because we don't know, for instance, I think we discussed this last time. YouTube Surge is a commercial outfit that may change their mind and delete everything.
Right.
We have no control over it.
Mm.
So we need to find out from the county whether or not they have a place for us to store things. That would be ideal to
Right.
me.
Right. So we should probably take anything required where we need information from the county and see if we can put those with one person. So why don't I take this one? And if anyone else would like to join me, that way we're not just constantly hounding them as they're in the middle of all this, so. Because the other part of it is the offline storage. We need to figure out a way to have things offline. If suddenly everything disappears from YouTube, or hopefully we can actually have things stored on the county website, and that would be more secure.
Yeah, technically that's not offline, but I think that's
Right.
close enough.
Right, but I mean, I think both.
It's-
I'd like
Yeah.
to have both. So,
Gotta have a backup.
right. And as we know, backup technology can change, people change, so. Yeah.
I still have some backups that are on an 8-inch floppy.
Do you have anything to play it on?
No, haven't had for
Okay.
decades.
Yeah. Yeah, so, okay, well, I'll take that. Would anyone like to join me on that? All right, well, it kind of falls into one of my other one of my other areas that I'd taken on, which was, it kind of falls into the responsibility of the communications task force. Okay,
Yeah, periodic surveys, I think
we
it's,
moved this from the bylaws.
Yeah,
So this
yeah,
is something that was in the bylaws, and we decided it was not needed in the bylaws. So we moved the wording intact, I think, into this.
yeah, I don't think anything needs to be done with it. Maybe just some editing, but I don't even see that.
I'm confused by the last sentence in the first paragraph about soliciting funds to cover the cost of the survey, yet it's something that the executive board creates. Does that mean the executive board's being paid to create the survey? Or is it something outside of the executive board or task force?
I think this may have been back when they were mailing things out,
Okay, okay.
but I don't know. It's from the
I-
old bylaws.
Cost of any mailings. I think it has to be mail,
Yeah.
in order to be an official.
I'll
I'll
I
just,
don't know, does it? So that's the question.
Well,
Mark?
well, Sarah has volunteered to pay for mailers at county expense in the past. And so I don't know about the soliciting funds, other than maybe we would ask her if she would do that for us.
So at that request,
Maybe that's request funds to cover the cost of mailing the survey. Yeah, she's offered to do that in the past. Now, in these financial times, that might be not the case anymore because it's pretty tight. So,
Well, it begs the question, though, as to whether, in fact, in our policies and procedures, we need to have at least the alternative of submitting surveys electronically, right?
Right.
Mhm.
yeah.
It seems like that would be, you know, it's they're being sent to our members. They're not being sent to the Musqueam community as a whole that I know of, but I guess in the past, maybe
they have been, every
they have
address got
been.
it, every address got the survey.
Okay,
Mm. So that should be in there
Mhm.
too, because it does say the members of the CAC. It doesn't say the members of, you know,
yeah,
every person.
And doesn't land use apply only to the Nesquin community boundary properties, not outside
Yeah.
of Nesquin community boundary properties?
Yeah,
but I
Well,
think we discussed that, though, and I think the idea here was that we would be, as a committee and its membership, also possibly interested in land development and comment on land development adjacent to the community boundary.
Yeah, true.
right. And I think that got into Article 3 definitions, and
Yeah.
so it's really to anybody that's within our
The
NCAC boundary,
boundary, okay.
but which is
Well,
different than the community plan, but yeah,
so
but
that's the sticking point. Do we say members or just say the community?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, this came from the previous bylaws where it said members, but I don't know, when's the last time we ever had a survey where everything, the Tillamook County has sent out surveys
Well,
to
doesn't it
everybody.
naturally lend itself though to having two survey authorizations? One for the community, which would be hopefully paid for by the county as a general mailing, but also authorizing the executive committee to do surveys of the membership electronically.
Right.
But do we need permission to do that? First,
It's a bad word to use, Tom.
sorry. Uh,
I
uh,
think that the executive board would have to weigh in. And by the way, we are an executive board. I keep seeing all these different wordings for the executive board going around, and it's new. So hopefully we can continue saying executive board, but it does say or a task force of the executive board's choosing. Okay, so it sounds like we have some work to do in
And
this
I'm
area.
also looking at the first sentence, the bylaws state that periodic community surveys. What if we took out the word community and just said periodic surveys? Because then that eliminates whether it's the community or outside the boundary. It's the NCAC membership, but it doesn't define it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
Because that word community could be
Right.
misinterpreted, unfortunately.
yeah, well,
Right.
we're limiting it to there.
Mm-hmm. It's the sentence above, or the line above it, that community.
Yeah, but if you eliminate that, you're still only addressing the members of the CAC.
But I think that's okay because we want to weigh in whether we're within the community growth boundary or outside of it, but still part of the NCAC web membership, right?
isn't it logical that any survey by mail would be done by the zip code?
Zip code is a slippery slope.
Oh, that's right. It does change. You're right, Tom.
Yeah, we were gonna do membership by zip code, and don't go there.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
weird.
we
It
definitely
seems
are.
like there is stuff to do in this periodic survey section.
It does. So who would like to tackle that one?
I'll step up for part of it, for half of it.
Michael,
Okay.
Michael would like to do this one.
Would he? Oh, okay.
We'll add Michael to it. Yeah, he's assigned. That's what he gets for
Okay,
being on a trip.
okay, so I've highlighted, actually I should have, rather than put it in red, I should highlight it. And then you guys can
Okay.
figure it out.
All right.
And I'll highlight this
Conflicts of
out.
interest is a big one.
I'd like to do that one.
I figured by it. I was waiting for you to.
Yeah,
That can be a really big one. But
It
It's
is.
good that you're opting to do that one. You'd be a good one for that one, but
I have a deep and abiding experience in it.
okay,
Yeah.
good.
I think it's really interesting too.
Yeah.
And, there's so much interest. I think, Mark, I think you were the one who actually mentioned that we could get information through the League of Oregon Cities. And I went in and took their tutorial on it. And, there's a lot of, it's really interesting. I think probably all the officers should go in and committee chairs should go in and take the tutorial on it because it's not obvious what a conflict is. And
Right.
it's okay to have a conflict as long as,
As long as
You
it's
state it.
declared.
yeah. So anyway, would anyone like to join Wyatt on this? Wyatt, it sounds like you're pretty comfortable doing the whole thing. I'd be
Yeah,
happy to be a second since I know you'll spend all the time on it.
okay.
I'll be a
Nancy,
second.
you're on.
Okay. All right, definition of emergency meetings. We may need one in November
Should this be top of the agenda?
for FEMA. So,
Yeah.
You know, we had quite a discussion on that when we were doing the bylaws, where there were some people who were concerned that you know, there are already people handling emergency management. Why would we ever need an emergency meeting? But this is one example where we may have to move very quickly once Sarah has more information to share with the chairs.
Mhm.
And if we want to be able to provide information to the members and or provide information to the county. So,
Yeah, we
So-
verbalized a definition, but we never did write it down.
right. Well,
I
it's in the
never wrote it down.
bylaws. I guess we didn't, in the bylaws, we didn't say, yeah, exactly
We
what would
rationalized it,
constitute. Right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
who would like to take that one? It would be someone who would be doing general things on meetings. Susan, you and I handled that in the bylaws.
Mhm.
Shall we do it?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay. I'm putting myself second. Okay. Handling
think-
requests for time on agenda is also part of meetings.
Yeah,
So-
we'll put Mark on that one.
Well, I think all of these we would run by Mark, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Has that even come up for you, Mark? You may be doing.
I'm sorry, I had to
having-
step away for a minute. Can you repeat it? I know
Sorry,
you have meetings.
Yeah, have you had to entertain any requests for time on an agenda for a regular meeting?
From a member.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The only request that
Oh,
I've
well,
got-
yes, you did.
right, the only request was from that committee for that ballot measure.
Mhm.
I think. I think actually, I think back, I'm trying to think, I think when I was elected, I think Alexis might have asked for time on an agenda in maybe July or something, right? Maybe a couple years ago.
Yes, I think that's right on
I think-
bylaws issues.
But I had missed that meeting, and so I didn't hear that request. I got it through an email, so.
Mhm.
um,
So would you like to be part of this, or do you want to just have this as some of the things that you review in general?
the emergency meetings and
Yeah,
handling
well,
requests for it. Okay, go
right.
ahead.
Yeah, those. Why don't we just plan on, how about Susan and I take anything regarding meetings and which is Article 5, and as I recall, and then anything we think that you'd be particularly interested in, we can send
Okay.
something to you or talk with you, you know, as we're proposing it. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds fine. I can't remember. I've looked at the bylaws for when those requests, if I remember, I thought a request would have to come in prior to an executive board meeting.
Correct.
It's the timeline for it, and so the executive board would weigh in on that, which is kind of what
Correct.
we did when that
Yes.
group came forward. So I think that process is a good process. So
Mhm.
that time frame, if somebody came in with a request outside of that time frame, it would move to the next month.
Mhm.
And so, you know, it's I'm kind of a big one on, you know, because you want it now doesn't mean that you get it now.
Yes.
You know what I
Very
mean?
good.
I don't mean
Yeah.
that in a mean way, but I just mean
Yeah.
that I understand that you have a burning issue, but it's outside of what we can do right now.
Yeah.
So it
Right.
will have to wait.
Yeah,
Right. Unless
That's
it's an
all. That's what I
emergency,
meant
true
by that.
emergency like FEMA or something.
yeah.
Yeah, unless it's a super, yeah.
Right. So policy 7, relationship with other organizations. I've actually gotten about 3/4 of the way through this document and that I have promised Mark. And so I will be sending that out over the next week to hopefully before the board meeting. But I'll send it to the committee members and to Mark. But I'll take that one. And if anyone would like to work with me on that, you're welcome to. It's basically something I've taken from another organization that had spent a lot of time on it and has it
Great.
in quite a bit of detail on different ways to work with other organizations from various standpoints, and it's quite well done. I'm basically stripping the detailed stuff that identifies that group, but taking a lot of it because they had gone through legal and all sorts of different things with it, and I think it's helpful.
That's awesome.
So would anyone like to join me on that, or Wyatt, would you like to do that?
Sure, why not?
Okay. You have to remember to keep Michael in mind too. Political statements and positions. And this just came up lately too. It's something I have quite a bit of experience with and interest in. I'll take that as one part, but who would like to join me on that?
Just like to have a preliminary discussion. Is that something we should or should not do?
Well, that's one of the questions. And, are we an advocacy organization? We're not a 501c3. 501c3s can take positions. I don't know, and it's something I think we have to get some direction from Sarah on the parts that affect the county, but the NCAC has taken positions in the past on various things that have come, that affect the members. And so I think this could end up being a fairly lengthy section or a complex section. One is, how do you handle ballot measures? But another is, of course, we would never take a position on candidates. We certainly couldn't do that. But what if something comes before us on taking a position on, if the water board wants to do something that would be a problem for members or something like that, how do we handle that? That's a bad example probably, but these different things that Guy has for the suggested monitoring task force, if something comes up that political is a word in itself that has to be defined.
What are we dealing also with public statements of the organization
Mm-hmm.
other than the community plan?
Mm-hmm.
Community plan is essentially static. It changes every 20 years, whether we need it or not.
But it's actually a statement of position from the to the public and to the county.
Right.
But it seems to me public statements on other
Oh,
matters
yeah. And
needs to be
yeah.
addressed.
Yeah. Okay.
So do we want to change this to political and
Public statements.
public statements, or do we have two different categories?
Public statements is probably better, is more general. That would include political.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Why don't we change that?
Nancy, your example of the water board is timely though, because they've implemented a whole new billing system, and I actually called them yesterday. And they've already had 23 complaints since they've put it in place. And if you're not aware, they're charging for paying your bills unless you mail a check now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, $5 for ACH. I mean, I can fill you in offline, but a lot of people are calling in and complaining, and but Joy is now having to let the water board know that this change they've implemented is very unpopular.
So they
Okay.
they want checks instead of electronic.
Well, if you don't want to pay a fee to have your money collected for your water bill, you will not get charged if you mail a check. All other options you are paying to send your money in.
Which is very strange. This is a new change that they've made.
Yeah, they sent out two emails, one from the new billing entity that you have to create a whole new online profile, different from what they had before. And then one from Joy, who is the office person who oversees the water billing at NCAC. Just to give a heads up, hey, look in your junk spam mail, because this was sent out by someone you wouldn't recognize the sender.
Yeah.
So
it's
even
an
if
issue as of the last week here in NCAC.
So even if it's not a credit card fee issue, even if it's being taken out of your checking account directly, they're charging.
Correct.
Okay. Because that's true for property tax bills too. They charge, the county charges if you pay without a check. Yeah. Okay. So that might be something, Mark, for the executive board meeting.
Yeah.
See if we want to take a position on that, although again, it's December, it might have resolved itself by then, but
I was surprised when she told me that 23 people had already complained. I mean, it's only been active for less than a week.
wow. Okay, I bet they change. Okay. So public statements. I still don't like that either. We'll work on it. Okay. So anyone want to join me on how we handle it kind of goes back to, I mean, it goes under policies about how we take positions on things. I mean, it's a larger thing, which is under positions. So never mind. Okay. Anyway, anyone want to join me on that? I was going to focus on the political side, but this is a larger issue. Okay, outreach communications. That's you, Susan.
Yeah, now,
You-
question. I mean, I would have a perceived conflict of interest here because I'm on it. So should I not be on? I mean, should I weigh in with the two people that do it? You know?
Because you have
No.
a conflict does not prohibit you. You have other interests. It's not necessarily in conflict. But
Right.
you've declared that interest. So
Mhm.
therefore people can judge whether or not they deem it to be in conflict. I do not believe it's in conflict.
No, I don't either. I think it's perfect because it's a new
Hey,
task
I
force.
just want to be transparent here.
Yes.
You know?
So do you mentioned too, is there a new person for the outreach committee? Task
I
force?
hope so, but not that I'm aware of yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
We need some.
We do.
Yeah,
We
I
do.
mean,
You don't want to be a task force of one.
no,
So,
preferably not.
so all of you in Nescoin who have a chance to talk with people about signing up, I think they've made some really good progress on getting people on the communications task force now, but doing outreach. Susan needs some help.
So
She's
can I
officially
just,
on the committee. Mhm.
can I just make one comment about the public statement and positions? You know, Guy it's kind of, it's maybe more of an I'm looking at the outreach, but Guy has advocated for, you know, he monitors some of these, you know, whether it's the power company, power and utility district or the water board or, it, and he's advocated, I think, for having a rep maybe attend those or
Right.
that, you know, to me, that would be kind of maybe a nice way to give feedback as a rep of the NCAC when you're attending that meeting, that just what you said, Susan, there, you know, people are, just so you have a heads up, and it's done I mean, we can report on it and things like that, but it's done in a way that's, and we can have a report about that. We can be transparent that we have a representative that attended and voiced, gave some feedback to the water board about their new policy. We can say all that in a meeting, but to me, that feels a little different than taking maybe a public statement about that we would put on the website. So I guess what I'm saying is I advocate for trying to maybe more now to try and have people from the NCAC and the outreach or whatever group represent the NCAA and some of these other things that are going on, the water board and the utility district and things like that. So.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mark, and I think it would mean having the board create a task force.
Right.
That monitoring task force, which is later here in the policies and procedures. We just basically took Guy's note email and stuck it in. You know, I think there was some concern expressed on stretching people too thin, but it's
Yeah.
such a big deal. And I think Guy's willing to head it up for now while he's here. You know, his point was he wants to not be so involved and would really
Yeah.
appreciate help. And it might be something where it would tap into someone's interest, you know, to do these specific small things, snackables or whatever, wouldn't take a lot of time for anyone, but might get them more involved in the organization.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah.
I don't know, maybe something to, are you thinking maybe that you'd be willing to set that up, having the monitoring task force get going?
Well, I think it's something, I think that as these conversations come up, you know, whether I think of the emergency response group,
Mhm.
I think of the utilities. I've gotten an email from somebody about, you know, we're at South County and we're always the last to get upgrades on the electrical system. And so then there's the water board and this issue. And so I think in a perfect world, you'd have a rep that from the NCAC that would identify themselves as an NCAC outreach person. I'm attending, I'm listening, I'm giving you feedback. And then when if we choose to make a public statement on the NCAC website or at a meeting, it's an informed conversation that we've had people who have been involved in this conversation. It's not just like we are taking a position where we haven't been involved. Do you know what I mean? And so it feels differently. It feels more legitimate to me than us. I just generally shy away from us trying to take a position on things where we haven't been very involved in it.
Exactly.
So I would
Exactly.
rather be involved in it so that when you make the statement that, whatever, we don't agree with this, it's because we've been at these meetings and it's because we've heard from members.
It sounds
Yeah.
like a policy.
Okay, well, yeah,
It's that being a policy of being involved in order to be able to make a
Right.
comment.
I think it gives more legitimacy to any conversation you have if you do it that way rather than, anyways, that's my 2 cents on it. I know it, and it's hard to do because you're going to have to ask for people to do that
Right.
and, provide feedback. It's expanding the role of the NCAC in a lot of regards. We do it now with Guy, but it would be expanding our role a little bit. But these things will come up, and how do we deal with them, sort of deal.
So
Well,
this is a
it's-
really good conversation. I think, because we've got as a procedure, the monitoring task force, but the policy would be that we should be attending these meetings and reporting back to the NCAC as necessary and for possible action.
And it gives members an ability, like you say, Nancy, to be involved, even if in a small way.
Mhm.
And it shows what NCAC does and how important it is.
So
Or
would
can
that be under public statements? Or would that be a separate policy? Why don't we tackle it for now under policy 8 and then bring it back and see? Does that sound okay? Or Tom, did you have a thought on where you think it would fit?
Well, it sounds like positions, public positions. It sounds like we should rationalize involvement here and then list what things we want to be involved in the procedures, the way it is right now.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to work with me on that?
Yeah, okay.
All right. Who would like to work with Susan on outreach communications? It kind of fits in there too, but
Yeah, except we kind of thought of, I did think of outreach as in trying to bring people in as opposed to,
yes,
it's kind of an inward,
yes,
dragging people in as opposed to standing on a soapbox and declaring
right,
something.
which is monitoring. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. And also finding people for positions. So,
Yeah. Like I said, dragging people in.
right.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, who would like to work with Susan on outreach communications?
Yeah.
Do you want to work with Michael on that, Susan?
Sure.
Okay, definition of honor system. Um,
I think that's my comment there is more of a procedure, but Tom wisely put it in as a policy too, because I think we've followed that policy throughout the drafting of the bylaws.
mhm.
So a brief statement about the honor system as a policy is, I think, appropriate, and then follow that with a procedure.
So basically, we still need to. Tom, is there a procedure on policy 10 already defined, or do we need to add that in?
I don't actually have all of this memorized. Let me look.
What a surprise.
I know, what's a character flaw here?
I don't see it, so why don't we
I don't
add in
think it
a
Okay.
matching procedure? That's a good point, Wyatt.
Yeah, because you did say procedure there. And I just. didn't
So
follow up on it.
Wyatt, do you want to take
Yeah, let me
rewriting
work on that
those?
one. I think it's
So,
pretty easy and pretty quick, so I'll do it.
okay. It's basically going to be adding a procedure and changing the wording of the policy, because I agree that's a really good way to break it down. Privacy policy.
And there's a period.
Yeah, this is something where we talked to Sarah at length about this issue of what is public and what isn't public. And I read on the state website under, for public meetings and public groups and that kind of thing, what can be done. And they allow to restrict access to certain information from the public to be removed. And so that's probably one of those things that's going to have to go through the county attorney, but we shouldn't have to publish email lists and that kind of thing, I would think.
Well, I mean, for instance, requiring a possible policy might be requiring use blind copy on all distributions.
Mhm, mhm.
Uh,
But like if there's a public records request, and that kind of thing, I think that doesn't have to be supplied. Physical addresses, that's already public record
Maybe public
with
record.
Tillamook County, in terms of the property records, but not for renters. It's just for owners,
No.
so, yeah.
Yeah. And
No,
if an-
property records don't necessarily reflect residence.
No, but I think they have mailing addresses.
And
So
that doesn't
they have
necessarily
both.
reflect a physical address either.
Right.
Mailboxes
Mhm,
Right.
don't
That's
reflect
true.
the physical address.
mhm.
That's
Right.
true. That's true. I know I get letters, not just official ones, wanting to buy my property.
Yeah, I will just say that in the federal courts, which is, I mean, they're the federal system is pretty sticky about making sure things are open, at least they used to be.
Mhm.
Um, the idea of providing a personal address without a court order was an anathema. I mean, it just wasn't done. And maybe that's because I dealt in the criminal courts and that was dangerous to people.
Oh,
But
sure.
I also think that it has particularly, in the current political climate, it has a
Right.
value to people to be able to intimidate somebody. So I think erring on the side of personal safety is something at least we ought to strongly address with the county attorney if he balks at it.
Right.
Mhm.
So Wyatt, obviously you want to take this one.
You bet.
Who would like to work with Wyatt on that?
Sounds like
I could
Wyatt
do that.
already has that one done.
I could do that, Wyatt, because I think anything going to the county,
Thanks,
can-
Nancy.
yeah, I also agree with you on this.
Mm.
And the same with records request.
think we can assign policy 13 to Michael,
Michael,
because I think he's already done it.
Yes,
Yeah, I
yeah,
second
that is, he did
Ex-
submit that.
except- Except he's got periods at the end of, at the bullets, but I'll fix that.
You have editorial control, so.
I do. Okay, I'll fix that
Um,
at my leisure.
okay, so.
Okay, this is policy.
Wyatt, I'm still on 12, so Wyatt and me, I guess, because I'm also doing communications, so. That's not okay, Wyatt, on 12?
yep, I'm on it.
Mhm.
Okay, Michael gets 13. And I think it looks fine. I was gonna review it, but I think it looks fine. You did a good job. Interactions with, oh, here we have 14, interactions with outside
Yeah.
organizations. So that's the monitoring task force. That's the policy we could put along with monitoring task force.
So I'm trying to remember what the other one was. It's positions versus this is
Correct.
how
So this will
we,
be the policy.
so I'm not sure that this is, the other one isn't a subset of this, but yeah. I'm not sure that those two are separate.
What to?
14 and 8.
Oh. Yeah, they're certainly related. But I guess when I read it, it's more like what the monitoring task force would be doing, but it's also related to 7.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So we may
Okay,
just,
it is a direct repeat of 7.
yeah,
Okay, so let's simplify things.
well, to me, 7 is where Rand had put in a proposal to partner with the NCA on buying equipment, getting a grant to buy equipment, where I think the NCA already had money for equipment to do hybrid meetings. But they wanted the NCAC to hold it and be responsible for it. So I think it was and so then it brought up other partnering up kinds of things. And so partnering to me is different than monitoring.
But that's
So
an
relationship with other organizations. What's that?
that's an interaction,
Yeah,
because you can't monitor things without changing them. That's a
right. So
Mhm.
how about if we move, where am I? 14 and put it up between 7 and 8. Let me see that relationship a little more clearly.
okay. That's gonna be messy, but I can do that. I'll do that offline.
Okay, so I will put myself on that. And who did we have on 7? Wyatt. You up for that too, Wyatt?
Which one, 7?
We're already on 7. How about on 14 also? Which may merge.
What do you want?
Yeah, I'm up. That's fine.
You want between 7, 6, and which?
7 and
between-
8.
Between
7 and 8. Because it looks like they're all kind of running together.
Yeah, that's part of it is an artifact of inputs from different meetings, and I
Right.
didn't catch that.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that repeat. I got some
No,
of them,
that's-
but I didn't get all of them.
It's just a little bit
this
of
is good.
overlap, Tom.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and they're all a little bit different too. So no, you've done a great job.
And
So 15, making NCAC recommendations. That kind of also fits under,
yeah, under positions.
Positions.
I think that gets merged with it.
I think so too. Oh, who did we have under that? That was,
Who is it, 7 or 8?
I think
8.
it's 8.
Yeah. Okay. What I'll probably do is rearrange things, or I'll edit this as we discussed and make 8, and then I'll I'll do an accept all and do 9s, because it's going to be, otherwise it's going to be
Yeah,
ugly.
That would be
Yeah.
helpful.
that'd be great. And I think you and I were on that one, Tom, so.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's all the policies we'll ever need, and then that didn't work, did it? Okay.
It's, while we're between things here, I'll just say that it's just really impressive what you guys have done, the work that you've done here, because I just think that I don't know. I just think that the bylaws, doing such a great job on the bylaws and now the policies and procedures, it's going to make this organization so much better, you know, going forward with all that you're putting in here to address all the different things that I think have been happening, but now we have a practice for how to deal with them. It's just going to be so good. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Mark, and thank you for being such a big part of it too.
So if it's going to be so
Yeah,
easy, maybe you should continue.
Yeah.
Well, he is.
yeah,
He's,
yeah. I mean,
I'll have another term.
I'm
Yes.
kind of a detailed guy, and if I can go to the procedure or the policy or the bylaws and I can read it, I'm pretty good, you know. And
Yeah,
you guys are doing a great job that way. So
well,
I would
I
say
second,
anybody could do that.
I
So,
second Tom. I think you need a new term, Mark, because then you can actually try all these things out.
Yeah, exactly. I'll third that.
Yeah.
I might even continue applying for the bylaws committee if we don't have much to do next year.
Yeah.
Get through this.
right.
Okay, well, thank you. Procedures. So how about if we just tackle our
Policies.
policies
Mhm.
and then we go back and we look at the procedures after in a different meeting? What do you think?
I think
That sounds
procedures
awesome.
is premature until we deal policies.
Yeah,
Mm.
I agree. What I will do is I'll go through here and see if I've gotten any, I'll do a little cleanup. And if
Mm.
I've got anything that needs to be combined or rearranged or whatever, I'll do that, but it'll just be editorial.
That sounds great. And then I owe you some input too, so I will get that to you too. I'm planning a big bylaws subcommittee tasks in the next week to 2 weeks. So
And Nancy, you wanted me to remind you about the minutes.
thank you, Susan. Thank you. Have people had a chance? Do you want to shall I just throw the minutes up and you can look at them? And we can just go through them quickly and then take a vote because they're short. Tom, you're already sharing. Could you just, and thank you for all your work on this, Tom. You've just done a terrific job.
You bet.
Could you just throw up the minutes and
Okay, minutes thrown up.
sorry, bad choice of words.
Okay, I'm gonna scroll past the thing, and I assuming that well, we can let me know when to scroll, or do you want it
Well,
smaller?
it's not. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not even. I'm on my own document here of yours editing. So okay, yeah. Why don't you go to the top?
At the top is just
Yeah, we're all
boilerplate.
there. Okay, yep. And then, so the minutes were approved as presented. That was one change. And then, do you guys just want to read quickly and?
Let me know when you want to scroll. As
I
meeting
think
was
you've got it
adjourned.
all.
Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
there. Okay. Except for you can't see the backed up and stored, but it's
Oh,
underneath
okay.
there.
Yeah, go ahead and scroll.
I'm okay with it.
I am as well.
I am.
Okay. Mark, any comments?
The only comment I might have is at the top there when that little ballot measure thing, let's see, is to provide advice to the county rather than to sponsor political considerations. I just, which it's true, but it's just probably semantics, but what I said was it didn't seem to fit in the object, Article 2 of
Okay.
the bylaws, which is, I consider our mission, but it's labeled as object, and that's to make recommendations on safety or land use issues, and this didn't seem to fit in that. So it's probably just semantics and it's fine as it is, but I didn't use the term, to entertain political comments at our meetings, but
Right. Okay, so why don't we
it's
why don't
probably
we just remove that sentence?
Mhm.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
That sound good? We just remove the mission of the NCAC sentence. Does that sound good?
Yes.
I tried to be as apolitical as possible, just
Yes.
using what we have in the bylaws. So
Yes, that's great. Okay, so
Approved as amended.
yeah, basically hearing no other objections, the bylaws will be approved as amended to remove that sentence. Okay, thank you. And I will do that and set that up. Okay. Any other comments? So next meeting will be on November 1st, and we'll go through any updates we have to the policies, and then go through Tom's updated draft, which will probably be Rev 10 or so by that time. And then if we have time, we'll go through some of the procedures. Does that sound good?
Yeah, Nancy, I have one thing for us to think about.
Okay.
The question that raises in my mind as I read the minutes is whether we need to continue to do written minutes if we're going to archive actual videos of meetings, as to whether, and it all comes down to storage versus access versus brevity. But I think it's an issue that we may want to include in the bylaw or the policies and procedures about records retention and record preparation.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's actually something that we've talked about in the executive board about, and that'll fall under the communications task force area, or the secretary responsibilities actually is, do we need minutes? It came up when Jeff and Gary were having the transition, and Jeff brought up, do we need to have written? And the consensus was it would be helpful to have very brief minutes that do the requirements that are in the Robert's rules, which are quite brief, but it would allow people to look very quickly to see if they want to watch the video. And so but I agree, it needs to be put in the policies and procedures on
Okay.
procedures really on how we do minutes. Policy would be that we need minutes. And we still have the video, et cetera. So I was going to
not sure-
include that
yeah.
under the communications task force or the secretary responsibilities. So that's true for our thing too. I think it's helpful. Most people aren't going to want to sit through the video. I don't know. Do you guys want to talk about that further, or?
I think it's
Well,
just something to think about.
Yeah.
No,
The community community plan steering committee, subcommittee, has elected not to use written minutes at all, and they're just
Really?
doing
The
reference to
video.
video.
Well, if they're going to do that, I wonder if they need to think about doing the AI thing, even though it's not very good. It's at least there's
Yeah.
something where you don't have to watch the the video, but yeah.
Yeah, that was decided in a meeting that I didn't attend, so.
Is that a current policy? I mean, in our bylaws, or are they obligated to do written?
Right now,
minutes?
the bylaws say they need to be doing it.
They
Yeah.
need
But
to,
how can they
need to have
decide not
minutes,
to do it?
but they've interpreted minutes as the video.
Yeah,
Oh, that's interesting. Huh.
I
I think
personally
that
don't
puts
think that's
the-
a good idea,
I
but
don't either. I think that puts the onus on the person. I mean, if a community plan subcommittee meeting is 2.5 hours, I personally would rather skim minutes that are written rather than have to sit down and listen to 2.5 hours of video. I think that
Yeah,
that's
even if
not
it's just very brief
respectful
on
of
what
the
they covered.
membership.
Right. So I think, Wyatt, you make a really good point that we need to specify what minutes are and put some procedures around that. Yeah. that's
we don't need a
good point.
policy because there's already the policy. What we
The
need is
policy is a definition.
I will, I'll take that as an action to add to R8.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah,
Wow.
So Nancy, maybe when we meet in executive session on Wednesday and you do the bylaws report, we can
bring that up.
kind of mention this and have a brief conversation that at that time about it, even
Mhm.
though you haven't formally addressed it yet in the policies and procedures, but more of a, we think this is what's going to be coming, so probably best practice would be to start doing this.
I will, thank you. And if for some reason I forget, Mark, would you remind me
Okay.
that I will make a
I'll try
note?
and remember.
Um,
I'll make a note here.
minutes. Okay, I will make a note of that too. All right, well, thank you guys very much. Anything else that you'd like to talk about? We don't really need public comment because we're all members, including you, Mark. So I think that's actually something we should look at too, is talking about ex officio members of the committee, that the chair is an ex officio member. I
yeah,
don't know, that wasn't in the bylaws. It might need to be a bylaws change, but I think we briefly talked about it while we were doing the bylaws, but we don't want to make someone feel like they need to. But it's fairly typical in organizations that the chair or the president would be a ex officio member.
Well, the only concern I would have on that is I'm not precise on my understanding of the term ex officio, but if we consider anybody a member of the committee, then we start getting Oregon public meeting law problems. I'd rather be silent on it.
good point, Tom.
What do you mean in terms of Oregon public
Like
meeting
if
law?
two of us wanted to talk with Mark, we couldn't do it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Ah, well, that's a point. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Good point. And that happens a lot. So, all right.
That's the
Okay.
reason that I didn't want Tom Prohodich on any committee. He needs
So
not to be on any committee.
that may be why we did back off of it on the bylaws, come to think of it. So now that you're reminding me. Yeah. Okay. Good point. Thank you. Okay. Any other comments or anything before we adjourn? All right. Well, just thank you guys so much for everything. You continue to be such a fabulous committee to be working with. I just enjoy each and every one of you, and thank you for your patience with me over these last few weeks. So, you take care, and I'll see you all on November 1st.
All right, thanks.